All right, hello, welcome everybody. Got Tom, got George, we got Bitcoin, we got a flash crash. So, welcome to the party. We're going to discuss. How you doing, George?
I was doing bad, and then I was doing good, and now I'm doing bad again.
It's a roller coaster.
But it just makes me honestly, I'm a little giddy, Tom.
You're giddy.
They wouldn't be doing this pain if there wasn't a reason for it.
Well, we will definitely discuss that theory. They did bring the pain today. I'm going to ask everybody right away if you could do us a big favor and please smash the like button. We got 23 likes. I don't know if the word didn't get out, but seems like people are not here yet. So we're going to go on. We're going ahead without them. Maybe they'll join us later. But
Nah.
smash the like button.
You're here, that's all that matters, meaning you
I,
guys.
That's right. I'm here. George is here. I see a lot of members in the chat that are here. I see a lot of other names that are familiar, that are longtime subscribers. So, welcome to all. I know today was not the best day, but honestly, I feel pretty good about where this day ended up. I woke up this morning and the first thing I saw was, this is the 15-minute time frame we're looking at. The first thing I saw was this candle and then this candle. That was my good morning. That's before I had my coffee. So, the day started out pretty rough. I think it got a
What time
lot
was that
better.
at, Tom?
It was like 7 in the morning. Let's see what this candle was. This was quarter to 7 in the morning. So, and we are on the East Coast in the US. So for me, it was quarter to 7 in the morning, depending on where you are in the world. It may have been whatever time it was. But this was pre-market. This was a few hours before the market opened. It's unusual to get this much before the market opens. This is a big, big flash crash. And I'm calling this a flash crash. This was, $4,500 in a few minutes. And then, in typical flash crash fashion, it jumped right back up. So you can see even this 15-minute candle, finished up. The low on this candle was 40,625. It closed $1,300 above that. So even inside of this 15 minutes, it ran back up. And it ran back up to, just for everybody's purpose, there's a new line on the chart. This light blue line, or whatever you call this color, this is where Bitcoin was on the last trading day of the year at the close of the US equity markets. So that's where Bitcoin finished in relationship to the Bitcoin miners. So that was my end of the year price. That was not, the closing candle on December 31st. That was the end of the equities trading close. So that's what I compare in order to compare apples to apples. So you can see this line really turned into, a little bit of support here. It crashed below this, ran right back to it. And then, the next 15-minute candle finished above it. We bumped into it a couple of times. And, we've traded sideways and up a little bit. For one portion of the day today, and then I'll get to the real, well, let me just take a break. The real Gary Gensler, member for 9 months. Thank you very much for being a member of the Talkin' Investing Squad. Much appreciated. He has a member comment that said, all FUD. Last shakeup before the ETF approval, nothing but BS to tank Bitcoin. So that is a going theory. I will tell you. So as this is going on, of course, I turned on YouTube and typed in Bitcoin live streams. And there was probably 10 people streaming live with a pretty big audience each. So, I went back and watched all of them. And they all said the same thing. And it's funny, without talking to George at all, we both had the exact opposite opinion of all of them. So every single one of them, without exception, said, and then I'll show you a report that came out, and most of them reference this. Every one of them said, oh, it leaked, the ETFs are getting rejected. So the information is leaked. This is confirmation. The ETFs are getting rejected on the 10th, and this is the crash. My immediate reaction before I heard any of that was the last thing they're gonna do. Well, I'll let you talk, George, because I called you and you gave back to me exactly what I was thinking.
Well, I think Crypto Fever says it best is diamond hands. You can't have paper hands, especially I don't think this is over with. I think this is going to continue on for another few days. I think that they're going to be trying to get your coins and get your miner stocks too. I mean, this is just part of the game that we're playing and that we're going to have to play, and you're going to have to get strong stomachs. I'm telling you what I'm doing, and that's why I look so rough, dude. It's a rough day because this is real dollars. You know what I mean? These aren't. It was hard to make these dollars, and it sucks when you see either any one of them run away from you. But you know what they're doing. They're playing a game. They're playing a game of be distracted over here, so you miss out on probably one of the greatest opportunities of my lifetime, at least. I don't know about yours, but at least for mine.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was if the spot ETF is going to get rejected, and let's just say somehow these
No,
quote
this thing gets
unquote
rejected.
insiders
Right.
had information, the last thing they would do is tank Bitcoin ahead of that. They would let it
Right.
run up
Bingo.
so that if it's going to get rejected on the 10th, then
Why would you do it now?
you let it run up to 50 and then have a giant pullback. So this pullback is premature. I think if anything, it's either unrelated or it's further indication that, we may very well be getting this on the 10th. And for those of you, that are not new to the channel, you will know I was very skeptical about this January 10th deadline. I was pretty confident we'd get a spot ETF before the halving. And however, for the last few weeks, there's been a series of events that really make me feel like there's a pretty good chance we get this. Now we might not get it, and I don't think long term. I don't think it matters. Yeah, and exactly. Nobody knows. There is no inside information. I'm going to show you the report that everybody, went crazy over. But first, I'm going to ask everybody if you could please do us a gigantic favor and smash the like button. It does help the stream out in real time. It makes a big difference. YouTube does not want this stream out there, so you can fight the algorithm by.
Somebody asked, "What the hell are we playing, George?" I'll tell you what we're playing. We're playing us versus them. Okay, and who I mean by them, these are hedge funds. Tom has a video coming out here soon. Dude, I had no idea. I won't even talk about it, Tom. What you told me, they want all the money. They don't just want some of it. They want it all. They want your money. They want every penny you have. I think somebody said it. You'll own nothing and be happy. And this is part of that. This is part of that movement. I believe is taking your money.
I mean, it's not a conspiracy theory. We know there's big money. Big money can move. There's market makers. There's market movers. And remember, even though Bitcoin is, substantially larger than it was in previous cycles, it's still only, an $850 billion or whatever. Here, let's be precise. $839 billion market cap. So while that is certainly a lot of money, there's several companies that are 2 times or 3 times as big as this. There's several companies twice as big. Well, not several. There's a couple of companies twice as big as the entire crypto universe all put together. So, to think that it's not manipulated in my opinion, that would be a naive point of view. Now, ultimately, I do think things tend to find their true value over the course of time. So, and the reason to manipulate this down would be to accumulate. And, the reason to accumulate would be for, to make gains later. So I do think, even if they're manipulating it down now and accumulating, that still would result in Bitcoin going up. Again, I will reiterate, I remain bullish on Bitcoin and I remain bullish on 2024. I'm going to show you guys something else real quick because, it wasn't just Bitcoin today. Look at the Russell. the Russell was down 3.35%. The NASDAQ was down 1.18%. The Dow, I don't pay attention to, but it was down 0.75%. And the S&P was down 0.8%. So this was a very rough day. They are crushing us at the beginning of January. They are trying to make us believe 2024 is going to be a bad year. And I will tell you, so, right or wrong, this is not financial advice. I believe this is going to be a very good year, particularly for the Russell 2000 and stocks that are even too small to be in the Russell. The smaller, the better this year. The small cap, micro cap, nano cap stocks have been kicked around for close to 3 years now. And I do think we've already started to see the rotation. So it's no coincidence to me that the first 2 days of the year, they just pummeled this. And they might, like George just said, this might not be the last day. And, we had a members only stream yesterday where we talked at great length about the fact we talked about the first couple of days of this year being difficult and expecting, one of the things I let the members know yesterday was I did not, despite the fact that the Bitcoin miners did not behave very well yesterday at all. I did not buy anything. I felt we would have 1 or 2 more days at least of a pullback. And I did say, if we have a nice pullback today, I will, start my dollar cost averaging and, buying the dip again today. And, sure enough, we opened up down, gigantic numbers with the Bitcoin miners. So, those of you who bought early, and I still was very measured because I will tell you, there very well could be more of this ahead. As George just said earlier, there could be another day or two or week or two. We don't know. So, I always try to say, and this is just me, I never, one of the questions we talked about on the live stream yesterday is if somebody gave you $100,000, what would you invest it in tomorrow? And my answer is always the same. I wouldn't invest all of it in one day. I would never invest.
Say it.
Right. I would never invest all my money in one day. You have to have, and I'm saying you have to. For me, I don't know which day is the best day. And, in all likelihood, it's probably not today and it's probably not tomorrow. So, I try to dollar cost average into things, and I'm not a strict dollar cost average. I'm more of a buy the dip. I'm opportunistic, and today I think was an opportunity when when the Bitcoin miners were down. CleanSpark was down 12% this morning. Marathon was down 10 or 11%. All the Bitcoin miners were. Marathon, by the way, finished in the green today. So, there was a big, there was an instant payoff for some of this. So I bought some inside of Bitcoin. I bought some stuff outside of, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners. And there was opportunities all over the place on my watch list. I have another watch list of 6 or 7 stocks that were down drastically that I still didn't buy because they're not at my price target yet. And they may never get there. But if they do, then they're going to be a steal and I'm going to buy them. That's my, let's get back to the chart. That is my rant for the day. So what I was going to show you guys is, let me get to the, okay, so this is an article from Business Insider, but it's just talking about, okay, the title says the SEC is likely to reject a spot Bitcoin ETF and send prices crashing by 20%, crypto firm says. So I'm just going to read the highlights. A lot of you may already know this. This, I do think, is what started the flash crash. And then, once things pile up, there's certain points where, the longs start to get liquidated. So it's a cascading effect. You can see a lot of people got liquidated today. A lot of the longs got liquidated, pushed out of the market. And that's why you see, I'm going to go back to this chart for 1 second. That's why you see 15-minute candles like this. From wherever, from here to here, longs were getting liquidated. But once that's done, then the buying pressure comes back and there's a recovery. Every single flash crash you'll ever see, no matter how bad the candle is, it doesn't finish at the bottom because these things reverse themselves once the liquidations are done. That doesn't mean there aren't more liquidations out there in the future, depending on what happened. They could push it down even further. But so this says, I just want to read a couple things because to me, this is, I'm just going to tell you, my personal opinion of this report is, I'm going to use the word nonsense. There's just, to me, there's no basis for what they've said here. They might as well just made this up or thrown a dart at the board, or, we can all guess, but, you shouldn't be issuing a report guessing. And somebody tell me why this isn't a guess. I'll just give you a few quotes from here. In a report published Tuesday, Matrix Port, and then I looked them up. I was not familiar with them. They are they're many things. They are, but ultimately, I think the way they make their money is they are a crypto exchange. So, Matrix Port said the SEC is poised to reject applications for the spot Bitcoin ETFs this month, and new products won't get the green light until at least the second quarter of 2024. Such a rejection would come as a surprise to the market, and it could result in a steep crash in Bitcoin's price. And so here's a quote from the thing, and then I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I just want to read it. While we have seen frequent meetings between the ETF applicants and staff from the SEC, which resulted in the applicants refiling their applications, we believe all applications fall short of a critical requirement that must be met before the SEC approves.
What is that critical?
They believe that. Well, I believe in Santa Claus. So,
I do too.
So, I mean...
No, but what is the critical thing that's missing? What did they
this article doesn't say that. I didn't read the rest of their report, but I mean, I don't care what they believe. It's not like they have some information that the rest of us don't have. And then they say, we could see Bitcoin prices decline by 20% very quickly, falling back to $36,000 to $38,000. Cascading liquidations. So, I don't know. Listen, 37,885, if I remember correctly, and who cares what the exact number is, but I will check it. 37,885 is a line on my chart. I do think if we fall, that is a line of support. I'll zoom out and show you guys why later, but this was a line of resistance, that we finally broke through and turned into, we haven't retested this as support. So is it impossible we fall back down to, 38,000 neighborhood? That is not impossible, but to me, there's nothing in this report. These people have no more information than you do, or I do. That's all I would say about that. So the fact that one company that I never heard of until this report, and that's probably the real reason they put this report out, is they have a product to sell. They're a crypto exchange. They're looking for people. This is the biggest free advertising event they could ever get. I'm sitting here, I'm guilty of it. I'm giving them advertising right now talking about it. But to be fair, it is my opinion that their report is absolute nonsense.
What?
Clive, thank you for the super chat. Clive said, heard BlackRock dumped millions this morning. Not sure how true that is. I don't know the answer to that. I saw some, thumbnails talking about that. Let me know. Somebody let me know in the comments if you found anything to see that that's true. That would not make any sense at all. And at some point with a pending ETF, I don't really even think that, I think they would be in trouble if they did that. So I am doubtful that is true, right?
Is anybody keeping track with the wallets to know and try to start eliminate who is who?
I mean, BlackRock's wallet would be insignificant at this point. They just, other than, whatever they've been accumulating for however long, but their spot ETF wallet, which now exists, is just getting seeded at this point right now. And, these companies are just starting to put money into Bitcoin. So I don't know. Let me know if you heard that, but I do believe it would be a conflict of interest. And if they dumped a bunch of Bitcoin, I almost think that would give reason alone for Gensler to say, you guys are manipulating the price yourselves. And all
Right.
right, we're going to reject. So I don't know that. Let me know. I'm giving you my opinion. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems unlikely and unreasonable in my opinion. We just got to 100 likes. Thank you, everybody, very much. If you're just got here, if you would be so kind as to smash the like button, it helps the live stream out in real time, and it is much appreciated. And of course, if you're new here or if you've been here and you're not yet subscribed, you can also subscribe to the channel. We talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners in great detail all the time on this channel. So if you're interested in that content,
Every day.
every
Well,
day, we do appreciate
basically
it.
every day you do a video.
Yeah, pretty much every day we do a video. So a couple of them are, members only. We have a members only live stream. We do have a membership. It's $5 a month. You can check that out if you're interested. Otherwise you can just subscribe for free. We have a free live stream every single Friday. And, when things happen like today, we try and jump on and talk about it. Some days we try to jump on good days and celebrate together, but we also try and jump on tough days because we've got a nice group. We have a great group of subscribers and we have a phenomenal group of members and,
Really well educated too, by the way.
Yeah, we have a fantastic...
In investing. I don't know about life, but...
we have a very thoughtful group and, we have a members only Discord where I think we have a great conversation. Anyway...
You know what my question is? I didn't even look. How did any do today?
Let's see. Any was down just under 10%.
That is incredible.
The members yesterday did not vote for any. That was one of the finalists. We do members only. The members get to choose a company for me to do a deep dive on every week. And that was one of the 4 choices to vote on. But Hive won. George, I think because of you and your recent investment in Hive.
Stupidity? Thanks, guys. Let's help the stupid guy out. I gotcha. Dude, 434.
Wow. What?
Oh, look at that. Don't say because of me, Ross. You're buying Solano because of Crypto Fever. He's the one that loves it. I think it's only going to do maybe, not financial advice, a double, maybe a double and a half. That's all I think it's going to do.
Well, that's a pretty good run. In what time frame?
I wonder if this has anything to do with the dump of Bitcoin, but it doesn't make sense. Did you also hear the IRS snuck in a reporting that the exchanges have to report any Bitcoin purchase over $10,000?
I did not see that.
Yeah, they snuck that in.
That is new news to me right now.
I mean, but what do I care? Do you care? I don't care. I mean,
if they
Tom. Now, some of these miners, these Bitcoin miners, reported their production for December.
Yes.
You got any? Are you feeling like talking about any of those dudes? Any of them stand out you with disappointment or?
I got some people, some miners that I think were big winners, some that I was a little disappointed with. So I want to go through 4 or 5 have reported. So thank you, George. I want to spend a few minutes on each one of those. So we'll pick one at a time. I'm going to start with the one that I think was so far, I think the best report. And it's not because it's my second largest position in my portfolio. I think that CleanSpark crushed it. So I did say throughout December, and we all know the fees that they were collecting, that the Bitcoin miners were collecting were, epic level of fees. So I expect all of the top 10 Bitcoin miners to beat November and have one of their best months of the year.
Tom,
yes.
Can I interrupt you? Before you do that, can you do a poll about why people think Bitcoin went down?
All right, let's.
It'd be interesting. We got about 250 people watching right now. I think that it's going to be a very interesting poll. Uh-oh. Now he's pulling it.
It takes me a minute to type. So what, obviously, number one, we're going to say the ETF report.
I almost got rid of all my Hive today and bought more of Marathon. I did get rid of half of it, though. I will tell you guys that. Just because I was in my margin, I was like, man, if this goes down, I'm going to be a real idiot. And it did go down. I was only half of an idiot. That's okay. I'm thinking about fighting in the Cryptos R Us MMA thing.
How do we get an invite into that? We got to get George into this thing.
Yeah,
they're not going to let you in.
Fight. No, yeah, I'm going to let them all fight, and then I'll take them at the end.
You should put up. We got to find a way to get into that.
My stack of Bitcoin versus your stack of Bitcoin.
It would be, I don't know who he's got rounded up for that, but I'm pretty sure it would not be a fair fight. So.
You guys want to see my wallet? Here's my wallet. Look at. You're going to laugh. See? See, that's a pretty cool wallet. Look at that. Ooh, do that again. You can't even see it.
Got any other reasons? I don't really have a lot of reasons I can put on this poll.
What are your reasons so far?
Well, there was this the report on the ETF.
The ETF isn't happening. Can you write down Epstein list or no?
If you want the stream to be canceled in real time.
Can you put down I mean, I only think that's the real reason. I mean, there's only those two things are what I think they are, by the way. Yeah, we need to talk about Hive, Tom.
Well, Hive is going to be our members only deep dive, so
so you have to join, become a member. So Tom, as you do that, how many hours do you really spend? I mean, come on, it's just me and you. Do you really spend on these deep dives? 2?
It's just me and you. We're going off.
It's just me and you.
We're going offline. Well, I will tell you when it's a Bitcoin miner because I spend all day, every day, 7 days a week studying them.
Ooh, China whale rug pull.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good thing because it was, as the Asian markets were open and active, so. Okay, so I got 4 reasons. One of them must be too many characters. It's not letting me do the poll. Tom. Okay. Quick poll. All right, here's the reasons I came up with. Why did Bitcoin flash crash today? The report that the ETF is not getting approved that we just went through, just market manipulation. Do you think Bitcoin is peaked and it's just on its way down going into the halving? Or did, the Asian markets opened early? Is it an Asian market rug pull? Those are your choices. And back to the stream. Darren, I want to just get to Darren's super chat real quick. Darren Thomas said, CleanSpark had a good December report, current hodl 3,002. So that is where we left off, Darren. That was one of the things that I wanted to go through. And that is why so far I think they have had the best. I'm just going to go, I'll give some quick highlights. I will most likely do deep dives on a lot of these, not all of them. Company mined 7,391 Bitcoin in 2023. So that's the second most out of any publicly traded company. Now, I do exclude Core Scientific because they are in Chapter 11. However, next year, they will be out of Chapter 11. Next year, I guess now being this year. So they'll be back in the mix. So the question is, who's going to mine more next year? Who's going to mine more in 2024? I think CleanSpark has a legit shot of mining more than Cypher in 2024. But Cypher did allude to the fact that they may have some I'm sorry, I'm saying Cypher. Core Scientific. Core Scientific's coming out of Chapter 11, and they talked about adding a bunch of exahash. So, and they didn't give some great specifics to that yet. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, Marathon mines the most, and their report's gonna blow everybody away. They'll be reporting soon. But this CleanSpark report, every single month, CleanSpark's been in second place, and they mined 720 Bitcoin. That's their best month. And more importantly, as Darren pointed out earlier, they hodled. So Bitcoin mined 720, Bitcoin sold 293. So they went back to, they hodled, what's that, 427 Bitcoin. They added to their hodl position, so they're over 3,000. There were 3 months of the year where they hodled the majority of their Bitcoin. They had been hovering around 500 Bitcoin for the entire crypto winter and, the first half of the year in 2023. Well, they switched and 3 months in a row pretty much put all of their Bitcoin into hodl. Then they switched back. When Bitcoin ran up to higher numbers, they sold all their Bitcoin for a couple of months. And when I say all, they put, like 50 into their hodl. So we had talked about it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in December. I was hoping that this would happen because I think they still stand a legit shot at maybe getting up to 5,000 Bitcoin by the halving on their balance sheet. That would put them in 4th place overall. And after the halving, I do think there's going to be, 6 months to a year where really nobody's going to be able to add a significant amount to their hodl position. So there's 5 companies that have any amount of hodl going on at all. This is one of them. This puts them solidly in 4th place, still less than half the company that's in 3rd place, which is Riot, which has over 7,000. Darren S., thank you for the super chat. Darren S. said, Wolf, December 334 Bitcoin, 18,500 miners deployed. Expect to repay 14 million of debt from Q4 free cash. So I did read Wolf's today, and so those are some good highlights. So Darren's talking about, I think he's probably liked this report. I was actually a little bit disappointed in Wolf's report. Not wildly disappointed. It was a little less Bitcoin than I thought that they were going to mine. They did mine more than the previous month, but I think they mined 10 or 12 more Bitcoin than the previous month. That was a little bit underperformance in my opinion. I like the fact that they're repaying a bunch of this debt. I wish they had been more specific. For instance, when we get to the Bitfarms report, you're going to see they specifically say we paid this much debt off. We have this much debt left. So I wish, there's no reason that TeraWolf can't do the same thing. And TeraWolf has, significantly more debt. When we get to Bitfarms, you'll see, their debt's going to be paid off next month. They paid off 100 million in debt. TeraWolf's in the middle of doing that, so it is very encouraging that they had a lot of free cash flow. I think also they said their cost per coin was just a little over 11,000, which is a very good number. And that leaves a lot of margin in the middle. So they did, like they alluded to, they kicked off a lot of free cash flow, and they're going to use a bunch of that to repay some of their debt. So all of that is good stuff. I was just a little disappointed with the number of Bitcoin that they mined, and I would prefer that these companies just be more specific. Like who are they? There's no reason not to just tell us. We just saw your quarterly report. You're mentioning that you're repaying off a certain amount of debt, so just give us the specifics. All right. That's my opinion. LB, thank you for the super chat. Your opinion on Cypher. I like Cypher. I think Cypher is going to be one of the winners when this is all said and done with. So I thought they had a good report. I want to talk about Cypher's report and Bitfarms' report at the same time because there was some numbers that were, to me, incredibly close. Those two companies, by certain measures, are incredibly equal in the year by the end of the year 2023. There's other big differences, right? No two companies are the same. So I'm not saying they're the same thing, but their numbers on the year, Cypher and Bitfarm mined almost the identical amount of Bitcoin. I think it was two Bitcoin separated them on the total number of Bitcoin they mined for the year. So, I mean, that's incredibly close. And really, so that puts them kind of tied for fourth. Obviously, Marathon mined the most, and this does not include Core Scientific. So, if we want to include them, Marathon, Core Scientific, then you got CleanSpark, and then Riot, and then you got Cypher and Bitfarms rounding out. I guess, is that more than five? The top five, and they were basically tied. So the other thing that they have is almost the identical amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. One has like 802 and one has like 796. So there's just 5 or 6 difference between their hodl position. They mined only 2 difference between their Bitcoin mined for the year. And to put this in perspective, let me go to Bitfarms mined 4,928 Bitcoin in the year, and I believe Cypher mined 4,930. I mean, that is incredibly close. So I liked both of these reports. I think Bitfarms had an outstanding month. You're going to see 446. So this is more what I was expecting out of all the Bitcoin miners. 392 in November, 446 in December with roughly the same exahash. So that's a dramatic improvement. You can see Bitcoin per exahash went up. This number has been going down month after month, and it's because the difficulty level obviously has been on the rise big time. So it makes sense that it's getting harder and harder, and the number of Bitcoin you mine per exahash is going down. But you're going to see in December, this went up for, I'm guessing, the majority of the Bitcoin miners. This was a big jump up for Bitfarms, so I thought this 446 met or exceeded my expectations. And then while we're talking about it, just to go to the other piece of the puzzle. So, and again, this is for Bitfarms. December financial update. Reduced total outstanding indebtedness during the month by $2 million. So they paid off $2 million, resulting in a remaining balance of $4 million at December 31st, all of which is scheduled to be paid by February of 2024. So this was over $100 million in debt. They paid this down to now $4 million, and it will be gone by the end of next month. So on top of that, so held approximately $84 million in cash and cash equivalents at December 31st. So Bitfarms, I think Bitfarms, to me, was the most improved Bitcoin miner of the year in 2024. So a lot of Bitcoin miners had great years. I think, a lot of them grew their exahash substantially, but from a financial statement standpoint, this went from a company, and I will show you my list. I made a list on January 1st, 2023, and, I listed the Bitfarms as, a little bit higher risk than the rest because their balance sheet needed a lot of work. Well, they put the work in. This looks like 2 different companies. What they did to turn their balance sheet around, in my mind, is absolutely spectacular. And they had some big announcements. I'm very bullish on Bitfarms, not financial advice. It is one of my big holdings as well. But I think they knocked it out of the park. MinerDoc, thank you for the super chat. MinerDoc asks, thoughts on Iris Energy at these prices? I'm starting to like Iris Energy at these prices again. So, there was a big, I'm going to go to that chart. Oh, Iris Energy. So from, this ran up big time. They announced that they were done raising money in order to fund their growth to 10 exahash. They announced that a few weeks ago, and immediately the stock went ballistic. So this got up to a point where, their previous high back in July was at $8. They blew past that. They got to, over $9. But from there to here, they're down about 32%. A lot of the Bitcoin miners over the last week are down similar to this. But it does put a lot of them back into what I think is, a good range. If you like Iris Energy, if you're bullish on them, this is a giant pullback and it makes a big difference. So yeah, I think they're in a much better range. I think Iris Energy also will be one of the winners. I've said there's going to be winners and losers when this is all said and done with, by the end of this next cycle. But I think there will be more winners than losers. I do think some of these companies will not make it to the finish line, but Iris Energy is not one of them. They have big plans. They're executing their plans to the extent at least they've got their purchase orders in. They've locked down the machines to get to 10 exahash. They got them at a good price. So all of those things were good things. They've now funded them. I would like to see how much, all right, they've of their at the market offering they've used, and there will be a lot more dilution ahead for this company. That's the only thing that I would caution everybody. They did put out, a presentation earlier this year, and they spelled out they intend to spend 626 or 636 million dollars to get to where they're going, but they're going to triple or quadruple their exahash in doing so, and that's not all going to happen at once. So, while this is not one of my big holdings, and I did sell out of Iris Energy when they made that announcement, that they simultaneously they put out their quarterly financial statements. They put out a $500 million at the market offering. At the time, that was close to double what their market cap was. So to me, that was disturbing. I got out of Iris Energy, not because I don't like the company. I just felt like that amount of dilution was going to hold the stock back. And you can see it did hold the stock back. As soon as they said they funded their purchase to 10 exahash, this stock took off. Now it's pulled back, and I think it's in a little better place at the moment. A lot of these, I think, got to, a lot of these charts look just like this Iris Energy chart. And, I'd much rather be buying today than a week ago. These things ran up like crazy into the end of the year. Then we did have, this is day 4. And even though this candle is green, they were down today. That just means they finished the day higher than they started the day. But this is the 4th red day in a row. Iris Energy was down 3.8% today. So starting last Thursday, so Thursday and Friday, which were the last 2 trading days of last year, and now Monday was a holiday in the US, so not a trading day. Tuesday and Wednesday were big down days again. And you can see this was even lower earlier. This didn't get as low as some of them did. Some of them had much bigger sell-offs. If I go to, Marathon, Marathon, if you got in at the bottom today to the closing, that's a 15% move intraday today. So Marathon, obviously, they were up 2.2%. Out of the larger companies, they were the big winner. I would ask everybody, drop in the chat if you have any idea why. Argo Blockchain went off today on a day where everything was just getting beaten up. And then a lot of them spent the day working their way back. They even popped green for a little while. But pretty much across the board red at the end of the day. Other than Marathon, Argo Blockchain was up almost 13%. They traded on very high volume. I didn't see any news. I will tell you, I did not look to see if they had an SEC filing. I didn't have time. So I don't know. They did not put out a press release about it. So I guess we could check that on the stream and see. But I don't know why. Argo Blockchain was they were the giant winner on the day. But a lot of these had really nice recoveries. If you go through this list, Bitfarms was down 1%, Hut 2%, Hive 2%. Those were down huge. And, Marathon was down 10 or 12%. They ended up in the green. Riot was down. They ended up down 2.4%. A couple of them had tough days. BitDeer continues to get pummeled. I think they're probably down the most out of anybody in this time frame. Let me check right now and see if that's true. So from their peak, this was Wednesday, so the same measurement. to the end of the day today, they're down just under 44%. And, they didn't quite get to 50. So they've had a big pullback, but they had a gigantic run up right back to where they were in September. This company has traded very differently than all the other Bitcoin miners. This is fairly new. You can see they just went public back here in April of 2023. So we need a lot more information, in my opinion. I'll rephrase that. I need a lot more information on BitDeer before I'm comfortable investing in them. And they've had 4 pretty rough days in a row, as have most of the Bitcoin miners. Let's see how our poll is doing. So the runaway answer to this question, in first place, why did Bitcoin flash crash today? Just straight out market manipulation, 58%. This report of the ETF not getting approved, 31%, and the other two, almost nothing. So those 2 factors, I think, and I think that's true. I think those are the reasons. I think they're going to push this around. But that leads to the next natural question, which we've been trying to ask just to get a gauge on everybody's thought process in each of our live streams, both public and the members only. Give me 1 second to type this up. Okay, so back to the trillion-dollar question. Will the Bitcoin spot ETF be approved by January 10th? So that is the date everybody's been targeting. I've heard some people talk about the 8th or the 9th. Some people were talking about today. And so I guess we have our answer as to whether or not that happened today. But are we going to get this by the 10th? It seems like there's been monumental consensus on this issue, other than everybody got spooked big time this morning. I won't say everybody, but obviously we had a flash crash and we had this report. And from what I watched, I don't know if it was 8 or 10 different, cryptocurrency channels that were much larger than this channel. So, which leads me to say, please smash the like button. And if you are not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. We just reached 16,000 subscribers. We've been here for 3 years. We're very consistent. Hopefully, we try to provide the best information that we can. And we've really focused in on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. I follow 19 Bitcoin miners on my list. I know there's a few more past that are nano cap stocks that I have not really talked much about. And a few of the ones on our list are still nano cap stocks as well. But as you guys know, the market cap of all of these stocks has gone up dramatically. I want to show you guys a chart that goes right to that, because I revisited this and I was just, it's just stunning how much these stocks have grown this year. And remember, I'll show you 2 charts actually. Okay, so this was the market cap of each one of the Bitcoin miners on January 1st, 2023. So 1 year ago, coming into last year. Riot was the biggest one at $567 million. Then Marathon at $400 million. Now, until the financial statements came out and we saw the exact number of shares, these were probably off a little bit. I did my research. A lot of these were from Yahoo Finance, and then I did look at the previous quarter. So, but these were, these are reasonably close. You add all of these up and you're, not too far over $1 billion. All of these added up put together. We now have been talking over the last few weeks. There's now $1 billion club. There's a bunch of Bitcoin miners themselves that have a market cap of greater than $1 billion. And then I'll pull up. So if you go to Marathon, which is now the largest. So we saw Riot was the largest. And by the way, for almost all year, Riot was the largest market cap. About a month or a month and a half ago, Marathon passed them. They haven't looked back. In fact, they've been putting distance between the two of them in a big way. Marathon went from around a $400 million market cap on the chart that we just looked at to a $5 billion market cap right now. And by the way, they were over $6 billion 4 days ago. So, I mean, that is a massive, massive move up in market cap. Now, through dilution events, market cap can grow in ways other than just the stock going up. But if we go down to the charts, if we go here, 1 second, you can see it wasn't just their market cap. The stock price, if you held this stock from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, Marathon was up 587% last year. So, there was these Bitcoin miners in 2023. They struggled in the middle of the year. A lot of people got very frustrated in August, September, part of October. There was a real tough stretch here of, close to 3 months. But by the time it was all said and done with, Bitcoin was up 154%. And I mean, you've got a bunch of these up in the high 400s, in 500s, some of these up 600% on the year. But it's not like these over here were the nano cap stocks. So, it's not like some of these stocks went from 10 million to 70 million. These are big. Cypher's over $1 billion, right? Marathon, we just saw, is $5 billion. Bitfarms up 561%. They're just under $1 billion, maybe $900 million. So it's not just the nano caps. A lot of these stocks had phenomenal years. Now, we've gotten a big pullback in the last couple of days. So 2 of the 4 days are in these numbers. So remember, on Thursday and Friday, the last 2 days of the year were tough days for the Bitcoin miners. But even with those, this is where they all still ended. And now, we've had a pullback from here. So, in some regards, I never wish for a pullback. And I always say, be careful what you wish for. Because, it's when there is a pullback, when there is a flash crash, for me, unless it's for some fundamental reason, unless something has changed with Bitcoin or, the world, geopolitical, if these are buying opportunities, in my opinion. So, and that's how I took this today, and I bought a bunch of stuff. So, a part of me likes these days where, we get a pullback. However, I am cognizant of the fact that, the last time we hit the top of the bull market cycle and, I was hoping for some, pullbacks and buying opportunities, we ended up in a crypto winter. So, that's where I'm saying be careful what you wish for. I don't think that's what's going on right now. Like I said, I'm extremely bullish on Bitcoin for 2024. 2023 was a fantastic year. We just saw Bitcoin was up over 150%. I think 2024 is going to be an excellent year for Bitcoin as a standalone year. And I think 2025, should be the peak of this next cycle. We'll see. Nothing is a given. Just because that's what happened in previous cycles doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But things do look like they're shaping up that way. There's a lot of Bitcoin related reasons, Bitcoin adoption related reasons, and there's also a lot of economic reasons that to me indicate there's, a bunch of things coming together to have a very good year for Bitcoin and, by extension, the Bitcoin miners in 2024. The only thing I would always add to that is there are certain miners that I do think we've got the halving event. Let me bring up the chart. I have that here somewhere. Okay, so we are now, according to this, and this is not exact, although they're counting down the seconds. We're now 102 days away. So, we're 3.5 months away from the halving, give or take. Obviously, at the halving, the Bitcoin reward is by definition cut in half. So I do think there are some Bitcoin miners that have not positioned themselves to withstand this short-term problem. And when I say short-term, typically there's about a 6-month period of time before Bitcoin gets back to its previous all-time high. And, it may take longer than that. So the reward's cut in half and, your revenue goes down, your gross profit goes down, your overhead doesn't go down, right? That doesn't change. So there are some Bitcoin miners, and I am going to put out a list of 5 Bitcoin miners that I am concerned about. So sometime in the next week, I'm finalizing that list, and a few press releases came out where I want to take a second look at a couple of them that were on the list, and then they put a press release out. So I want to make sure that that didn't fundamentally change. But there's 5 that I'm worried about. There's a bunch I'm not worried about at all. There's several of these. We know that Fred from Marathon actually came right out and said he's looking for opportunities. They're I don't want to use the word bearish, but they use some pretty clear language that their internal data showed that Bitcoin was not going to do well, between then and the halving, and they thought that would provide a lot of opportunities for them to consume some of the smaller companies and have some inorganic growth and have some opportunities. So we'll see what happens. But there are several companies like Marathon and Riot. And several other. Those two balance sheets stand out, and there's a reason those are the largest by market cap. They both have big hodl positions. Obviously, Marathon by far the biggest, twice Riot's, even though Riot has the third largest. But those are rock solid balance sheets. They're in a position where the halving, they're not worried about cash flow, over the course of the 6 months surrounding the halving. So there's several companies. Like I said, to me, that's setting yourself up for the halving. And that's why when I looked at what Bitfarms did, I really feel like they fundamentally changed their company. Not even talking about from an operational standpoint what they're doing. That's a separate story. And I will be doing a deep dive on Bitfarms because I think Bitfarms is, I'm also going to put my top 10 list out. I will show you guys my top. Last year, I had a top 8 list at the beginning of the year because I only had 8 companies, in my opinion, that I had confidence in out of the 19 that I look at. This year, I will have a full top 10 list. And, a lot of those companies, I'm seeing Darren saying, Tom, you fail to recognize the fees those fees don't have. So we will talk about that because that does impact this equation. The Bitcoin fees that are getting charged in December were more than 10 times what they normally are. So the fees are a big, big wild card. If it turns out that the fee per block, so just a super quick, welcome back, George.
Hey, buddy.
Just a super quick, I know most of you guys know this, but just so that, to bring you up, for those who don't, with every block that gets solved, a portion of the fees that get charged for the transactions in that block get rewarded to the Bitcoin miner that solved the block. So right now, before the halving, you get 6.25 Bitcoin of newly minted Bitcoin coming into existence, but you also get the fees associated with that block. So historically, over the last several years, 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.2 Bitcoin, 0.3 Bitcoin has been excellent. This last month, that's skyrocketed. It was somewhere between, 10, 15, 20x what it normally is. Now, if we see, even if 1 Bitcoin becomes the new normal as a fee, then that will soften the blow of the halving. Meaning that the amount of Bitcoin you get for solving a block will go from 6.25. So if in the past the fee was 0.1 Bitcoin, then that's 6.35 Bitcoin. If that 0.1 Bitcoin turns into 1.0 Bitcoin, then 3.125, which will be the reward after the halving, will turn into 4.125. So that will be significantly less than, the half. So that would soften the blow quite a bit. If you didn't follow those numbers, just, understand there's a fee that gets charged on top of this. If the fee goes up, then that will help a lot of these companies after the halving, particularly the small ones. We don't know what the fees are going to be. The fees twice this year, the fees spiraled up. And then, the first time it did, they went right back down to 0.1 or 0.2. So we're going to have to see in January, February, does this persist?
Today? Wow. Did you read what Sour Melon Gaming said?
I did not.
SEC stock exchange officials meet ahead of potential spot Bitcoin ETF approval. ETF will be traded on New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and Chicago Board Option Exchange. The SEC staff attorney met with the Division of Trading and Marketing today with the major exchanges. Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up.
I'm looking, approval, what does this say? Approval on Friday with trading beginning next week.
Wow.
Sources tell Fox Business is what I see Sour Melon Gaming
Yeah, no,
saying.
but I'm reading it right now.
Oh, you're reading the actual
I'm reading
report.
it from, yeah. I just thought it was funny because it was published they released this at January 3rd at 3:33. I just thought that was interesting.
Oh, this was at 3:33, so
yeah.
Let's see what. So this, well, we didn't get a gigantic boost on Bitcoin from that, but it has inched up a little.
But dude, I would be. You see, the problem is I want to go all in. I'm ready to drop another couple dollars in. It's coming, Tom. Not financial news. Advice.
Well, to answer the question, do we know it's coming? The poll that's up right now is, will the Bitcoin spot ETF be approved by January 10th, 2024? We have 132 votes. We do have a lot more people than that on the stream, so it's free to vote if you're on a device where you can vote. I know there's a few devices where there's difficulty voting on the poll, so my apologies. It's not a me thing or an us thing. It's just is what it is. Dude, while we're talking about it, if you could smash the like button, I'd appreciate it. Go ahead, George.
I copied right from Fox News when they said it was released. I don't yell at them, not me, brother. 1 hour ago, this was just released. I mean, news becomes news when they report it, I guess.
I suppose that's true.
Let's put it this way. We're a lot closer than yesterday for this to get approved.
The results of our poll right now are 70% think that we will get a spot ETF by the 10th, which is
and did you wish
1 week from
a birthday to
today.
Bitcoin today, Tom?
Is it Bitcoin's birthday?
15 years ago today.
Aha. Well, happy birthday to Bitcoin. 15 years and $42,870 later.
Isn't it crazy that it is the best investment of all times? Just remember, if you have a friend and you call that friend up and he says,
I'm interested in
I
where
don't
this
think
is
that's
going.
a good idea. I called Tom up. I heard about Bitcoin right in the beginning. You remember this, Tom?
I remember very well. Yes, I do.
I think this is a good idea because, look at what's happening. This could all
your Bitcoin birthday
crashing
cake
down.
Behind you.
Huh?
I see a Bitcoin birthday cake behind you.
I'm celebrating it.
I did not know that it was Bitcoin's birthday.
Tom, you got to be in the know, brother.
You can't be all places all the times. You can't be all things to all people.
Yeah, I would sell. I would feel like a moron if I sold. Oh, wait a second. I did sell. Just a little bit.
JR is saying the $1 million question for a poll is invest in the Bitcoin ETF, yes or no? So I think that's a good question. So we're just about 70-30. Every time we do this poll, we've been somewhere in this neighborhood. We've been a little bit higher than this usually, somewhere around 72, but very close. So, 70% think we're getting this. We're now 1 week away from this. We just got this breaking report from Sour Melon Gaming and from George. And apparently this came out earlier. Okay, so let's end this poll and let's ask, that is a question we have not asked yet. I did tell the members in the members only live stream yesterday what my answer to that question is, but who cares about me? Let's see what you guys think.
RVP Gaming is sell and rebuy at 23K. Good luck with that, man. I hope it gets there. But all I would do is buy all the way down. Because I can't afford to miss it. That's my problem. What do I got in life? A retirement from the government?
You don't have that.
Ask if you would invest your 401k into Bitcoin ETF. That's a good question.
I'll do a follow-up with that. Right now, I'm going to say, the question is, whether it's through your 401k, whether it's in any way, shape, or form, are you going to invest in a Bitcoin spot ETF if and when one gets approved?
Mine, just so you know, mine's a hard no.
You will not invest in a Bitcoin spot ETF.
No, I just buy Bitcoin.
Well, that's true. Why don't you tell people what you're doing, George?
Just averaging in the Bitcoin every week now.
George has been very disciplined.
Well,
George,
I had a little hiccup. I hicced up a little bit.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything.
I wasn't going to talk about that. But what's so sad is it was true. That's what. I didn't even say the real reason why Bitcoin plummeted.
What my advice to you would be, and this is not financial advice, it's life advice.
Is this friendly advice, Tom?
It is.
Take it. So I'll give it the value that I paid for it.
And that's what it's worth. Turn off social media. Just turn it off. No good. And I'm saying that as somebody in the middle of streaming on social media. So with the exception of, with a few exceptions, there's a lot of noise on social media. And sometimes it can be disturbing. That's all I would say. So, like everything, I guess, moderation is the key.
Let's see, 60 votes. Wow, it's almost down the middle.
Yeah, we're pretty close. There is a poll up if you're able to vote. Voting is free, of course. Are you going to invest in a Bitcoin spot ETF if and when one comes out?
I'll tell you another thing, Tom. I always remember what you told me. I know we look at the values of everything, but we didn't lose any money until you sell the stock. If you're in the, or if you have coins, you didn't lose the money until you sell the coins. Yeah. And if the fundamentals didn't change, and there's a lot of pressure on the upside, why would you change now?
And you just said the key piece of this. If the fundamentals haven't changed, if you're holding a stock, if you're a long-term investor, if you're dollar cost averaging in, if you own something, the fundamentals haven't changed, then a flash crash, it feels awful. I mean, we're human beings. I was not happy camper this morning for these two candles and for the several hours after, right up until the US markets opened, the Bitcoin miners were all down viciously in pre-market. So things looked not good because we already just had 3 rough days in a row before this. So even though we talked on our members only live stream that I thought today was going to be a dip, I didn't think it was going to be a flash crash. And, it took a minute for that to settle in. So having said that, I did take it as an opportunity to buy several things.
Hey, I'm going to ask Smoltz a question. Smoltz, what exchange was that? Because I like to know. And you're telling if that's what happened to you and they froze it, I want to know who that was. I'll stay away from them. I use Coinbase as much as Coinbase and Uphold. That's what I use. Sorry, Tom.
No, that's a fair question. And I think, I don't know. I guess I think be careful.
And if you guys buy and sell a lot of crypto, Coinbase has a pro account. And it's really good. And it's like just a monthly fee. And I do that, just so you know. It's like $30 a month.
So what do you get from that? Because I think you told me some good stuff about that.
I get to buy up to $10,000 worth of Bitcoin for no fees.
So that's a really good deal. Not financial advice.
I think so too.
Not a recommendation. We are not a sponsor or affiliated in any way, shape, or form with Coinbase. Other than as users. So this is super, super close poll right now. I will tell you guys that I will be putting money in a Bitcoin spot ETF. So my answer to that is yes. Right now, I have some money in stock ticker BITO, which is the Bitcoin Futures ETF. So the Futures ETF is very, very different. There's a reason it's a big deal, as most of you probably know. There's a gigantic fundamental difference between the Futures ETF and the spot ETF that we're looking to get. The Bitcoin Futures ETF holds exactly no Bitcoin, zero. It trades on futures, and so the spot ETFs are going to fundamentally change the demand equation on Bitcoin, and it's a game changer. So it's not a one-day event. It's not a buy the news, sell the news. Whatever happens surrounding the days before and after the approval, whether it, there's a pullback or not, these ETFs are going to create demand because as people put money into them, the fund has to hold the underlying asset. And obviously in this instance, Bitcoin is the underlying asset. So as these funds grow, and I think there's 14 applications right now, I don't know how many are going to get approved, and I don't know when they're going to get approved, but as they get approved, over time, money is going to go into these ETFs. And so that's the one thing that I would say. Remember, just because these get approved on a certain day, even, let's say BlackRock, which has a monumental amount of money under management, whether it's 9 trillion or 10 trillion, whatever the number is. It's not like they're going to put $1 trillion into, the ETF on day one, but their customers will likely over time add money to the ETF. So this will be a continued sustained demand pressure on Bitcoin, which is why I think it's a fundamental game changer. We did do a poll a month or two ago. Do you think that this is the biggest catalyst for Bitcoin in the history of Bitcoin? And it was the most overwhelming result we got. It was somewhere in the mid 90% of people agreed that this would be the largest catalyst ever for Bitcoin. And I agree with that. And that doesn't mean that the day it happens, Bitcoin goes to the moon. But like I'm saying, you've got all of the largest money managers in the world. They're going to have their customers add money. They're not going to go to every customer and say, boom, throw all your money in. And for some of their customers, it will be a harder sell than others. And, they manage they're money managers. They manage other people's money. But obviously, they have a high level of influence over what those people do with their money. But there, as George has pointed out several times, there's another gigantic group that this will impact. And one of our members, who was it? Might have been Crypto Fever, alluded to the fact that this opens up the entire retirement accounts. And that is a gigantic universe of money. So if you have a retirement account right now, you can't really go buy Bitcoin, but your retirement money, you can and will be able to, if and when one or several are approved, you're going to be able to put that money into a Bitcoin spot ETF. So, that's another multi-trillion-dollar pool of money that will start to add to the demand pressure for Bitcoin. There's still the better part of $6 trillion in money market funds. It's more like 5.6 trillion now the last time I looked, but a bunch of that money, as the Fed starts to lower rates, which we'll talk about. The Fed minutes came out today and they said basically what everybody knew they were going to say. They did not affect, I don't think they had a big effect or impact on the market. They had a tiny effect on the, well, I'll show you. If you look at the March, this is the Fed Watch tool. This is the March meeting. So there's now just under 65 plus 6% is 71% chance, according to the Fed Watch tool, of a rate cut in the March meeting. So that is down a little. Yesterday it was about 80%. It dropped down to 71. There were a few things in the minutes that absolutely everybody should have known were going to be in those minutes. They hedge. They've got to be careful. They can't, they talk about how there's a possibility they're going to have to keep rates up longer. Well, they've been saying that at every meeting. And, so there was, I have an article I can get to later and quote a few specific things that may have spooked the market just a little bit, but you can see still a 71% chance of a rate cut in March. I think this will return back to 80% within 3 or 4 days. Usually there's a knee-jerk reaction to these Fed things, and then everybody remembers, oh yeah, that's the same thing that they already said, and no new news here. There was no new news in those Fed minutes. So my point of that was you've got a massive amount of money in money markets, and the Fed already signaled that they're looking for, in their dot plot, they were talking about between 3 to 5 rate cuts in 2024. The market has priced in between 5 to 7 25 basis point rate cuts. Now, some of those may happen at the same time in the, by way of a 50 basis point rate cut. So the market believes that's what's going to happen in 2024. I think something in that range is highly likely to happen. So as those interest rates go down, money will come out of the money markets. A disproportionate amount of money is in money markets right now. And, bonds, treasuries, all those things are, it's been a generation since you could get this kind of a return in a money market fund. I was a kid the last time, you could do that.
Tom, do you think, 2 questions. One, this question I was thinking about. Do you think it's a good time to buy back into Bitcoin? What is it called? Coinbase. And then do you think this money, when the ETF comes, do you think the miners will drop because people will be pulling their money out of the miners?
I do not think, I think the opposite. I know there's this theory floating around out there that money's going to gravitate out of the Bitcoin miners into the ETFs when they get approved because people are looking for a pure play on Bitcoin. But it's important to remember, I just showed you guys what the market cap was on January 1st, 2023. Of all the Bitcoin miners, all together, all added up, put together, it was less than $2 billion. Well, that's significantly more now, but it's still, less than $10 billion. That is a tiny, tiny amount of money. That is not what's going to move the Bitcoin ETF. So, you know, the other thing is, and we have a Bitcoin mining investment community here on this channel. And I can tell you, I think that it's fair to say, and we'll do a poll. Well, we're doing a poll. Are you going to invest in Bitcoin spot ETF? 53% of the people on this stream said no, they're not going to. So the next question would be, are you going to take your money out of the Bitcoin miners and put it into an ETF? The Bitcoin miners are a leveraged play on Bitcoin. And most of the people that invest in Bitcoin miners understand that. Now, leverage goes both ways. We learned, the hard way through the crypto winter that these are leverage plays to the downside when things are not going well, but they are in fact leverage plays to the upside. I'm going to show you guys a chart that I just showed you because I got a lot of people this year were saying, I don't know what you're talking about. These are not leverage plays. Why do you keep saying that? That's wrong. Well, I'm going to let the math speak for itself. This is what the Bitcoin miners did in the year 2023. Bitcoin was up 154%, and this was as of the close of the equity markets on December 29th, so not December 31st. So in the period of time that Bitcoin was up 154%, you're going to see, forget Core Scientific, which was up 1,800%. That's a unique situation. Cypher was up 638%. That's a 4x leverage. Bit Digital, 605%. That's a 4x leverage. Marathon was very close to a 4x leverage. You've got a bunch here that are, between 2, 3.5 leverages. Even these down here are still a leveraged play. TeraWolf was up 261% versus 154%. So, and this is a snapshot, but you can see these are big, big leveraged plays on Bitcoin. I don't think the people that invest in Marathon are going to say, hey, I want out of Marathon and I want into the Bitcoin ETF. They may invest in both, but I don't think they're going to take their investment out. I know I'm not. So I don't think that's a thing. And, there's the market. So to put it in perspective, the market cap of Bitcoin we just looked at is $830 billion. The market cap of all the Bitcoin mining stocks put together is somewhere plus or minus $10 billion. So they are just insignificant compared to Bitcoin. They're two different things. One is a leveraged, it's the most leveraged play other than if you want to go onto an exchange and, roll the dice. You can straight up just 10x, 20x, 50x leverage your money on Bitcoin. So that's not something that I do. That's not something that I personally think anybody should do. A lot of people learned that lesson today in this candle, this 15-minute candle right here. There was mass liquidations. So my answer would be no. I don't think and I'm going to finish that thought because the other side of this is the Bitcoin ETF is going to be good for Bitcoin over the long term. That's my opinion. What's good for Bitcoin is good for the Bitcoin miners, period, because they are a leveraged play on Bitcoin. So, if Bitcoin goes up a lot, then the Bitcoin miners are going to make a lot more money. People aren't going to leave them as they become profitable and start to trade on low PEs. People aren't going to have an exodus and say, I'd rather be over here in Bitcoin. Like I said, a lot of people will be in both.
Tom, I have a question.
Yes.
And this is just repeating what people said on the stream. Just
fire away.
He's sick and tired of you saying that the leverage play, I won't say his name. He's sick and tired of you saying that it's a leverage play on Bitcoin. It moves with the NASDAQ.
Let's revisit this. It is an absolute statistical fact.
As you're looking at the crypto fever, you're looking at it, you're staring it right in the face, and how can you say it's not a leverage play on Bitcoin? That was funny.
You can feel like you don't want it to be a leveraged play, or maybe you think this is some monumental grand coincidence, but in point of fact, these were a leveraged play for the full year 2023.
They wouldn't be up more than 154%. I mean,
Right. When
But I will
Bitcoin's
say,
up 150% and Marathon's up 587%, that is the definition of a leveraged play. Right? You're getting 2, 3, 4x returns. And they have always acted this way to the upside and the downside. Now, when I say always, on any given one day or 1 week or even sometimes 1 month, they don't act that way. But when you look at larger period of time, the move is more drastic to the upside and to the downside. That's been true since they've come into existence. So if there's people that don't want to believe that, that's
I
absolutely
think
fine with
people
me.
don't understand the statement, because Peter says, I don't understand how the miners are a leverage plays. They are pure stocks. Where is the leverage?
The leverage is, okay, so I'll give you exactly where the leverage is. Let's take MicroStrategy as an example. And MicroStrategy is a proxy for Bitcoin. It actually is a little bit of a leverage as well because they take out debt to buy Bitcoin. But they are much closer to a proxy on Bitcoin. And you could see that over the last few days as Bitcoin was way up, MicroStrategy was way up when the Bitcoin miners suffered yesterday. And when Bitcoin was down today, MicroStrategy was down accordingly. Now, again, on any given day, every single day, 100% of the time, that doesn't have the same relationship, but over the course of time. So, and the reason for that is if you want to buy a Bitcoin or if you buy the Bitcoin ETF, it is going to move on a one-to-one basis with Bitcoin. So if you are in the Bitcoin ETF, as Bitcoin goes up, if Bitcoin doubles, the Bitcoin ETF has to buy Bitcoin at the price of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin miners mine Bitcoin. So right now, for instance, let me go to here. I'm going to go to TeraWolf because I think this will explain it. So here's TeraWolf's December update. Power cost averaged $11,212 per Bitcoin self-mined, which means now there are other costs. So you have to take everything into consideration. But that is the direct cost of mining a Bitcoin if you have your own facilities. Now, somebody like Marathon is currently transitioning. They have a bunch of other costs because they have to pay for hosting and those kind of things. They were asset light. They're switching over. So your power cost is by far and away 90+% of the cost for most of these Bitcoin miners of mining a Bitcoin. So that means effectively TeraWolf's buying Bitcoin for $11,000. Well, if you go buy Bitcoin, you're going to buy it for $42,000. Right? If a spot ETF buys Bitcoin, they're going to buy it for $42,000 or whatever the current rate is. So that's where the leverage comes from. Now, if you're a bad Bitcoin miner, you're going to underperform. And I did say there will be winners and losers, but the high quality Bitcoin miners that have a good equation are a leverage play. So if we go back to the chart that I was just looking at, you'll see there are some that underperformed. So some of these miners are not, they did not set themselves up properly, whether it's their equipment, their power, their price that they're paying for power, they're not getting that leverage. So I think this press release right here, right where, this statement right here, this is where the leverage comes from. That's why they move in a leveraged way. Their cost per coin is drastically less than everybody else's in the world. Everyone else who wants to buy a Bitcoin has to pay the price of a Bitcoin. The Bitcoin miners are minting new Bitcoin. They're Bitcoin that are coming into existence. And they're doing so at a significantly lower price in some instances than, the spot price of Bitcoin. Now, in a crypto winter, that equation changes and they become a leveraged play to the downside. Their costs remain the same and the price of Bitcoin goes way down. And now all of a sudden, they're a leveraged play to the downside. They perform much worse than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin pulled back 65 or 70%. Every single Bitcoin miner of the 19 that I followed, and it was really 17 or 18 because a couple went public in the middle, every single one of them, no exceptions, at the bottom of the crypto winter was down between 91% and 99.9%. all of them. So the best performing Bitcoin miner was down 91% from their high on November 10th, 2021 to their low at the bottom of the crypto winter. So obviously that's significantly worse than Bitcoin was down. So that's what I'm saying. It's a leverage play. And listen, if you don't want to think that it's a leverage play, I'm not the boss of anybody. You guys can think whatever you want.
So
if you think I'm
have
wrong,
to say this
then
one.
you can.
And I guess I'm wrong because of my thinking, because Peter asked this. So if I buy Exxon, it's a leverage play on gas. Well, I mean gas and oil. By the way, it is.
No,
How's
that's
that not a
no.
leverage play? It's not? To
no.
me, it seems like it is.
Then you could say every single person that, every product that exists. There's a gross profit margin.
Everybody's leveraged. The whole system's leveraged.
It's all a leverage. If you want to feel like ExxonMobil is a lever, I mean, are you buying a lot of oil, like crude oil, and storing it otherwise?
Yeah, I tried to. Remember?
Well, then I guess.
I tried to buy 300,000 barrels of oil when it went below $0. I don't know if you guys remember this. I did everything I possibly could to buy it, and I couldn't buy it. Do you remember this time?
At one point, they were paying people to take oil.
Yeah.
A significant amount of money. It was
a
brief period of time, but there was no place to put it.
I have to read this to you so you can laugh, Tom. And then anybody who's listening to us as they're on the treadmill can laugh. From Midway. Other than the very end of the play, Mrs. Lincoln, did you enjoy the play?
It's not funny. It's too soon.
I have a question. Can you pull up the NASDAQ and Bitcoin and overlay? Like you got the Bitcoin up miner. Can you pull up the NASDAQ and put it on top of it?
I'll do you one better.
Okay.
Get there. Here's the NASDAQ last year. The NASDAQ, 45%.
Oh.
Bitcoin, 154%. Marathon, 587%.
That was smart that you put that there.
Listen, you guys don't have to agree with me. If you think I'm an idiot and that Bitcoin miners are not a leverage play on Bitcoin, then act accordingly. I am not in charge of anybody's thought process, right? I'm telling you, I'm showing you a chart that shows you mathematically they were a leverage play on Bitcoin to the upside. If you look at 2022, you'll see that mathematically they were a leverage play to the downside on Bitcoin. So if you think that that's due to some other thing and that it coincidentally works out that way, then that's fine. This is my opinion. I'm trying to share the information and my thoughts. So I'm shocked this is an area of debate. I'm kind of stunned, but everybody has their own opinion. And if people disagree with me, then more power to them. Listen, everybody's investing their own money. So whatever, you got to have your own beliefs, your own conviction in your own beliefs. And if you don't believe that, you got to trade on your own thoughts. It's not right. I trade my money. So this is what I think. And this is how I act accordingly. If you think I'm wrong, trust me, you're not alone. There's plenty of people that think I'm an imbecile. So everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
Listen to that.
I have a feeling that the vast majority of people on this stream agree with me, but maybe I'm wrong. Should we do a poll? Let's see.
No, that's not even worth a poll. Are you crazy?
DEFCON 2 said, you're right, Tom. There, DEFCON 2 has given me all the moral support that I need. So Kay is asking which miners are now part of the S&P 500. There are a few miners that are on the Russell. I believe Marathon is listed on the Russell 2000. Riot is on the Russell 2000. CleanSpark is on the Russell 2000. By the way, not a Bitcoin miner, but MicroStrategy is in the Russell 2000. So those are the ones. Also, I did miss Clive, and I'll get. Oh, these are both from Clive. I was going to say I'll get to Clive in a second, but the other one's from Clive as well. So, Clive, I will answer both of your super chats, and thank you very much for the super chats. Much appreciated. Question: in order for a miner to survive the halving, what's the minimum hash rate? So, the answer to that is not the same for every single miner. The key to these miners and the analysis that I do miner by miner is you have to look at what their cost, what their energy cost is, and what their overhead is. So there may be some miners that are smaller than others, but if their cost per coin is less, they need to generate enough gross profit to pay their overhead. And if they can't do that, then they need to have a strong balance sheet where they have a cash to get to, whether it's 6 months or 9 months or a year. They need to have a cash supply in order to get them through that period until such time as they return to cash flow positive. There will be companies that go cash flow negative, that are currently cash flow positive, that go cash flow negative for a short period of time around the halving, unless, Bitcoin goes ballistic between now and then. So if there's a small miner, some of the small miners right now have only, a half an exahash or 1 or 2 exahash, and they're already, not cash flow positive. So to me, that's the list of miners that I don't know how they're going to get from here to there. Those are the ones that I'm most concerned about. So there is no one answer, you need to be 2 exahash or higher or 4 exahash. But obviously, the more exahash you have, the more revenue you have, the more potential for gross profit you have. So, and the reward is going to get cut. So the actual reward itself is going to get cut in half at the halving. Now, like somebody mentioned earlier, there will be fees. So depending on what the fees are, that may mitigate some of that. So instead of a 50% reduction in revenue, it's possible with the fees, maybe it'll only be a 40% reduction in revenue. And that might not sound like a big deal, but it could be make or break for some of these companies. So low overhead is the key, and that's my other concern. Most of the small Bitcoin miners that I have looked at, they do not have low overhead. So, if you have high overhead and you have a small amount of revenue and therefore a small amount of gross profit, and your revenue is about to get cut by some significant percentage, then you're going to have a hard time surviving. And then Clive also asked, same question. So sorry, Clive, I didn't get to your question the first time. Thank you very much for both super chats. So I hope that was helpful. And some of the answer to that question is going to be, I'm going to put a list out of the 5 Bitcoin miners that I am most concerned about going into the halving. And yes, this is just my opinion. It's not financial advice, but that list is going to be made on the exact equation that I just talked about. I'm looking at what their gross margin is, what's their cost per coin, what's their gross margin, and how much overhead do they have. And then on top of their direct overhead, there's interest expense. So some of these companies also have a large amount of debt, and that debt is creating interest expense. So when you have debt, it's a double whammy because you have to pay the interest on the debt, which comes out of your cash flow, and then you have debt service. In other words, you have to continue to pay down the principal on your debt. So both of those are a drain on your cash flow above and beyond your overhead. So if your gross profit can't cover all that, and your balance sheet, some of these companies already have an inverted current equation, meaning they have more current liabilities than current assets. So if you're already upside down on that equation and you're about to go cash flow negative on a monthly basis, then to me, that spells trouble. That's not a company that I would put my money in. So that's how I try to look at these stocks, particularly, at a couple of different times. In the crypto winter, to me, that was the most important thing. Cash is king. I don't care what else you're doing. If you have the greatest plan in the world, if you run out of money, you're done. And these companies, really, borrowing money is not an option for the vast majority of Bitcoin miners. And by the way, the last time they all did that, it turned into a disaster. So, it's unlikely to happen again. And for the companies that are nano cap stocks right now, if you're upside down by 50 or 80 or $100 million and your market cap is $40 million, those are tough numbers to figure out how to solve. And there are some people that are in that boat. Peter, thank you for the super chat. What are your thoughts on BETS? I briefly looked at this, and I will be honest, I can't talk intelligently about it. So I'm going to put it on my notes again. And I did take a brief look at this, and I'll take a quick look right now just to remind everybody what's going on here. Is this the one where the description is completely wrong?
$2 million? Whoa.
Yeah, this is totally incorrect.
It is? It's less than that?
No, I'm saying the distribution of specialty tea products. That is not what they do at all. So, this is cryptocurrency related. Looks like just 29 days ago, they raised $12 million. You can see this is an ultra nano cap company. It is an actual penny stock. It's trading currently at a penny. So I didn't really do my due diligence. I know we did bring this up on the channel once before. I took a brief look. The first thing I read was this, and I was like, why are we talking about this? And then realized, I don't know, maybe this is what they used to do 5 years ago or something, or maybe it's just totally wrong. So I need to dig more into this. But I would always be careful with a $2 million market cap company. And I don't know that market cap is correct. I would have to go to their financial statements and see if that is accurate. But they are trading for literally 1 penny. So that can pay off, but that's a very high risk investment would be my initial reaction to that. It's a risk reward, how much of your portfolio. If you want to take a flyer, I'm sure there's people, that trade this stock that do very well. And I will try to remember. I wrote this on my list of things to follow up on, so I will try to remember to dig into that.
And, Tom, yes. Speaking of the stock market and everything that's happened the first few days here, 2 days, do you think we're going to have an up year or a down year come the election by November, whatever?
I think I am bullish on the year 2024. I'm particularly bullish on Bitcoin and the Russell 2000. I do think we will have an up year across the board. I don't think it's going to be a runaway year. We had a really nice year in 2023 from a stock market standpoint. So, we're at or near highs. I think everything will finish the year green. I think the Russell's going to outperform everything. It has underperformed for years. Most of the stocks that, as a retail investor, most of the stocks that we all look at, most of the stocks that there's YouTube videos about, these stocks have been beaten down for years now. Small cap, high growth companies that are pre-profitability, those stocks have gotten decimated. There are times where money rotates back into those stocks. They're, risk on, if you will. And this is the most risk off period of time I've ever seen in my life. And, a part of that is the fact that people can go get 4 or 5% on their money with no risk. When risk off means 1.5% treasury bill, that's not very inviting. But when it means a 4.5%, that's triple. That's a big, big difference. So a lot of money has left into that area. But as interest rates, in my opinion, go down in 2024, that will change that risk off, risk on equation to some extent. And I do think that the Fed's going to push money back into the market. And the other thing that interest rates going down does, not just from an investor standpoint, interest rates going down also pushes a lot of money into the market because businesses will, their ability to borrow money and spend money on capex and grow increases when interest rates come down, right? They can afford to get those loans or use their line of credits and all that. So it just has, a growth effect. There's a lot of, these are why I'm saying I think there's a lot of things in 2024 that are bullish for the stock market. I don't, geopolitically and all the other things, I don't know, but just from a stock market standpoint, and particularly as it pertains to the small cap, high growth stuff, and the Bitcoin miners are obviously, they are the pinnacle of small cap, high growth, in theory. And there were, if you remember back to December of 2020, January of 2021, somewhere, plus or minus 2 or 3 months of that, all of those types of companies, small cap companies, were on fire. There was a gigantic, gigantic bubble. So that is now 3 full years ago, and 3+ years ago. Since that bubble burst in about February, that really started in February of 2021. So that's approximately 3 years ago. The last 3 years have been an absolute nightmare for small cap stocks. And if you look back, I had a watch list of companies. Forget pre profit, gap profit. Forget pre positive EBITDA. These companies didn't even have revenue at all. They were pre-revenue, and they were 10 billion, 50 billion. There were a couple of companies, I'm not going to mention any names, they did not even yet have a prototype of their product, and they were 15 or 20 billion dollar companies. So, we are now on the exact opposite end of that spectrum. I'm not saying we're going to go back to that. That was unhealthy, and those bubbles tend not to reoccur, but because there was a bubble and because there was, so many people lost money, the risk off has lingered for 3 full years. So if you look at the Russell compared to the other major indexes, it's lagging behind. Now, November and December, this already started. So, the Russell started to run a little bit nicer in the last couple of months of last year. The last 2 days, it's gotten beat up badly. That may continue for a little period of time in January, but I think 2024, I'm bullish on this year. How about you, George?
I'm not as bullish as you are. I think we get out, but it's not going to be that good.
So.
Yeah, I think probably the best industry might be miners, Bitcoin miners.
So that was going to be my question, but you already answered it.
I mean, again, none of this is financial advice. It's just too many things. I mean, I'm just reading about the border and how they're talking about either the border's going to be shut down or the government's going to be shut down. So, I mean, supposedly he's taking a hard stance, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it. I'm not really saying, but I mean, when the government, does a shutdown, that's not good for the stock market. We all know that.
I wish I had this chart up, but that you bring up a good point. We have had there's a potential looming government shutdown here in the U.S. So I know we have people from all over the world. You'd be surprised the few times that this has happened. It has been very brief, and it's actually had almost no impact on the market. It would seem intuitively, it would seem like a potential disaster scenario. Now, most of them have been very brief. So I guess if we had a government shutdown, it was extended, that could be a very negative thing. And we're in a lot more divisive world than we have been in the past, in my opinion. So maybe this one would be worse than those in the past. But that is definitely a potential negative catalyst that is out there. And that there are a lot of negative catalysts that are out there. There's we saw oil jump today. There's some geopolitical things going on out there in the world that, could potentially be not good stuff. In addition to the fact we know there's already wars in progress. So I understand there's a lot of stuff on the other side of the ledger, but I think all in, I think there's, there, particularly around Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, that's where my highest level of conviction is. But, beyond that, I do think the small cap stocks are going to have a good year. It's very early. We're on the second trading day of the year, so an awful lot could happen. We don't know. But all we can do is take our best guess, and we have to invest accordingly.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's a crapshoot.
Crypto Fever said, come on, guys. It's the same story every time with this government shutdown. FUD, 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 and noise.
My money. You're funny. I think on the stream on Friday, I think what we have to do is write, I am George, will be here.
Well,
because I am George.
You are George.
And I'm older than him. So I had the name first. And then I want to fight him because I think I could take him.
I don't think
he's a nice guy and all that, but
I think
2 men enter, 1 man leave. Sorry.
For those of you who don't know, there's some kind of MMA crypto influencer MMA thing going on out there that I think the Cryptos R Us, I am George, I think is coordinating the whole thing. I saw a little bit on it, and then I didn't know if it was ever going to become a reality. I think George saw something on it the other day. So let me know if you guys think that's happening. And if it is, for the record, if anybody involved in that is watching, we have a George of our own that I'm pretty sure would be willing to agree to match up against anybody.
Tom, I was about money because remember I tried to fight Logan Paul. He wouldn't take it up. Wimp. The way he got his fame was freaking fighting somebody that was huge. Holyfield. Wasn't it Holyfield?
No, he fought.
Yeah, it was Holyfield. Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Holyfield. Holyfield's in great shape, but he's a bit of an older guy.
It was one of those guys. I don't know. I won't say what I want to say because I would get in trouble. But who was it then? Wasn't it Evander Holyfield?
No, maybe it was Floyd Mayweather.
Was it Floyd? I wouldn't fight Floyd. He's a mean guy.
You're not exactly in his weight class, my friend.
Yeah, Cryptos R Us, dude. That guy. He's slow and weak. I bet you he smokes a lot of cigarettes too. Because isn't he Chinese?
So Bryce is saying yes, it was Floyd Mayweather.
Duckman, did you see Duckman Stronghold Digital Miner? Like always. I wouldn't fight Sebastian. I feel bad for him. He's a good guy. I mean, I used to watch his stuff. That's all I can say.
We don't endorse violence. However, George would be willing to enter the MMA crypto influencer MMA.
No. Only for money.
Only for money.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go get my face hit. Look at this face. Would you want to get your face hit?
I don't think anybody wants to get their face hit. I'm sure there's some money involved in there somewhere. It probably is not
George
money
versus
that you would
The
care
Rock.
about.
I wouldn't do that either. But he's not that tall. He's only like 5'10".
The Rock is not 5 feet 10 inches tall. That is grossly incorrect.
They all lie on
Dwayne Johnson? Yeah, but I've seen him. You can see him standing next to other people. He may not be as tall as you are, but he is not 5'10".
Let's see, how tall is he? 5'10".
No, no. You're just saying that out loud.
Some sites claim he's 6'5".
That's closer. That's a lot closer.
No.
You say so.
Riot reported online. There's no way. He's a good guy. So he used to do a TikTok every morning at like 5:30 in the morning that I would watch. Or was it 5:30 at night? I don't remember. It was one of those times.
Oh, The Rock?
Yeah, The Rock. He's a really righteous dude.
What do you call what are you taking inches off of him for?
I'm just saying he doesn't seem that tall. They all lie. So that's as tall as me. He's as tall as me.
Yes, he is. I think he is.
What would it be? Fatso and The Rock? The Boulder and The Rock. See what I did there?
Okay, I will be getting at least one of those videos out this week, if not both, for the members, Hut and Hive. Thank you for asking. Those are the two member videos that have been voted on that I need to get out to our members. We've been focusing on Bitcoin miners. We don't always do Bitcoin miners, but for the last few months, we've been focusing on that. And I have personally, because it's the year end going into the next year, I have spent an inordinate amount of time on just all of the Bitcoin miners. Are you going to invest in the Bitcoin spot ETF? Our final answer is 56% say no and 44% say yes. 214 votes. Thank you, everybody, very much for participating in that poll.
So, Tom, last question, then I got to go.
All right.
Do you believe that the ETF is going to be the biggest catalyst as of now for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely no question in my mind. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's my opinion too. I was just curious.
And
oh yeah, what is this CleanSpark's trading platform? What is that?
I have no thoughts on that because I don't know what it is. How about that?
I'm just trying to read everybody's thing. Hut has problems. They need cash and lots of it to run operations.
Hut has 9,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And I am personally not worried about Hut. They have, and they may need to raise some capital, but let's just go there and take a look. So, and that's, again, I'm giving my personal opinion. I know they did do a merger. I am waiting to see, right, post-merger, we're going to get a December 31st financial statement that gives us a better look at exactly what things look like. But they have had some spectacular news, over the last 60 days. I think big things are ahead for Hut. If they need cash, which they very well may, they're, let me just go to, because at long last, Yahoo Finance now has their market cap correct. So even after a pretty significant pullback, this is still $1 billion company. So, if they got to raise some money to get from here to there, and I think they will, as will most of these Bitcoin miners, I'm bullish on Hut. That's all I will say. But time will tell. And, I'm waiting for more information. And I am expecting Hut to put out some press releases on announcing that they're going to buy some Bitcoin mining machines and increase their exahash from where they are. I think that those press releases are imminent, meaning in January of 2024. So we'll see what happens. I don't know that. I have no inside information on that. But this is the same thing I said I put out a Bitfarms video and said the same things word for word. And like 3 days later, they put out the biggest press release they've ever had by a mile. They're tripling their exahash, et cetera, et cetera. I will do a deep dive on that, but I'm getting that same sense. I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as Bitfarms was, But I do think, Hut got themselves up, I think, to 7.3 exahash. And I think you're going to see a press release. They own their own, right, energy infrastructure now. They won that Validus situation. Everybody thought that was a disaster for them, but in the end, they end up owning the whole thing. So, they have a lot of infrastructure to put Bitcoin mining machines to work on. And I think you're going to see them do that. That's my opinion. So we'll see what happens. That's obviously no guarantees. All right. Anything else, George? I think we pretty much hit everything. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So we've been going sideways. We had a flash crash this morning. By and large, it looks like we've been headed sideways all day.
The last thing I'm going to ask you.
Uh-oh. Okay.
The derivative market. Do you think that is going to affect us at all this year?
So what do you mean
that they're
by that?
So upside down and so underfunded? This is a bomb. I don't want to drop it on you with this like this.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, I'll call you and explain it.
Okay.
But it's bigger. That's the real reason I'm worried about the market this whole year.
I mean, when you say the derivatives market, the derivative market is many, many, many times larger than the actual stock market itself,
yeah, I know.
And it means a lot of different things. So I don't know specifically what you mean by that question, but we can prep for it for the next stream. It sounds like you're onto something.
Just remember, I am George.
All right. So thank you, everybody, very much for joining us. I know today started out as a rough day. Most of the Bitcoin miners, got a lot healthier as the day went on. I know we finished in the red, and we'll see what happens. I will say the same thing I said at the end of our members only stream last night, which is I won't be surprised if this persists for another couple of days. If it does, I'm going to very cautiously, not financial advice. I'm just letting you guys know what I do. I will continue to very slowly buy the dip if there is more to come. So if not, for those of you following the channel, I personally have been building out my positions for a long time. So it will be what it will be. Any other parting thoughts, George? Thoughts on tomorrow, the rest of this week?
Don't be scared. You can't take it with you if you die.
Well, today is Wednesday, so we have we have a general live stream for everybody Friday after the market closes. So just 2 days from now. So everybody, please join us Friday, and hopefully it will be with, a green day and great news. So in the meantime, everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Good luck trading, and we will see you on Friday.
Bye, everyone.